Hello guys, Roland James here with Life Media, where we aim to educate and inform that you may make your best decision. What we have today is what's called the Bauer's Orbital sander. This sander is a 5-inch. It has 0 to 13,000 OPMs per minute, or orbits per minute. It uses what's called the random orbital, which is good versus say something like your standard orbital sander. Usually a standard orbital sander is a sander that has a square bottom. Those are good. However, what in my opinion is more superior is the orbital sander, as it's faster. It has what's called the random orbit, hence the name. So what this does is help you make the best and smoothest surface possible without getting swirl marks and things like that. So in my opinion, if you're looking for a sander, especially a sander on a budget, you really can't go wrong with this particular sander. This sander is one that you can find at your local Harbor Freight. Its retail price is usually around $39.99. However, I picked this one up for only $24.99 with a coupon. And those of you guys who know about Harbor Freight know that they usually have some pretty great deals. Now you may be asking yourself, yeah, but is that a good sander? Is it high quality? Is it worth it? Now I can't say for sure that this may be better than something, say a DeWalt sander. However, if you're like me, just a hobbyist, someone who wants to do some projects around the house, this is, in my opinion, a great buy. At $24.99, it's really hard to go wrong. Now, let's go ahead and take a closer look at this particular sander. Now for the closer look at the Bauer Orbital sander. As you can see, the construction is actually quite good. I have used other sanders, some higher quality sanders, and to be quite honest, the feel, the construction, the weight feels the same as you would get in a more high dollar sander. So as far as the quality, I would say it's right up there on par with any of the quote-unquote name brand sanders you might find out on the market. Now this particular sander, as I mentioned, has 0 to 13,000 OPMs per minute, or orbits per minute, which is good because that means you're going to get a faster speed than say your standard orbital sander. Now what this does is help the person actually get the smoothest possible finish when sanding, like say a piece of furniture like you see here. This piece of furniture is actually something I picked up for my 6-year-old, which is going to end up in his room. I could have gone the regular route, going to your name brand box store, got some kind of cheap particle type of wood dresser. However, I decided to get my hands dirty a little and put the sander to work. So what I ended up doing was finding a herein dresser, as you can see here, which if I were to buy brand new would cost in the hundreds of dollars. It's solid wood, very well built, and as you can see, it looks pretty good. Now when I picked up this particular dresser, it wasn't in the best shape. It had a lot of nicks, cuts, rough edges, pieces sticking up. So as you can see, what I did with this sander alone is take this dresser down to its bare wood, so that way I can refinish it. So what the hook and loop is basically the way your sanding pad actually attaches to the sander. What it is basically Velcro, as you can hear and probably see in the video. So it's very easy to put on, replace. You can get various different types of grits. This particular one is actually a 200 grit, And that's what I use after the 80 grit to really get that real fine smooth finish on the wood. I don't know if you could really see it in the video, however, it's just very smooth. And that's one great thing about an orbital sander. It helps take out a lot of the, let's say, work as far as you would have to do when using, let's say, a standard orbital sander and trying to make sure that you don't get any swirl marks. The random orbital sander is moving just as it says in random movements, random orbits while it's spinning, which helps you get a very nice and very smooth finish. And that's why I believe that an orbital sander should be something you should find it in your personal toolbox. As a matter of fact, if you don't have a sander yet and you're trying to decide which sander would I need to get most of the work done around the house, say you want to do some finishing on the wood, maybe you want to do some shutters on the outside, I would highly recommend going with an orbital sander. It's kind of a do-all type of sander. And as I just mentioned, it's very easy to change out your grits and papers to get whatever job you need done. Now, this orbital sander, as you can see, as most orbital sanders do, they're going to have some kind of back in here to help catch all the dust from the sand. This particular one I do like because it uses a hard plastic versus some other sanders where it's more of a cloth baggy material. In my opinion, this should last a lot longer. And when I was doing the work on this particular dresser, I had no issues with really having too much dust or this not collecting dust like it's supposed to. Everything worked perfectly fine, just as it should. Now, that doesn't mean that you're only able to use just this particular backing for this sander. What you can do is remove the back by lifting up these two tabs here. Lift it up. The backing does come off. Okay, as you can see there, it has a small filter. And this also comes off. So of course you could dump out the sand once it gets too full, or if you would like, let's say you're tackling a very large project, you don't want to stop to re-empty this and place it back on, you could always do the vac hose, which a lot of people like to do, especially for big jobs. You put the connection there, have your vacuum hooked up, ready to go. Let's get this back on. Another great feature about this particular product is that it has what's called a fan-cooled motor with sealed bearings. So as you're using it, it's getting cooled internally so you don't get any kind of overheating, and since you have the bearings sealed, you should not have any kind of particles, dust getting into the bearing system in here, fouling things up, and thus killing the life of your sander. I think that's a great aspect of this sander, especially at the price point of $24.99. In my opinion, you get a lot for very little. So is this a best buy or a great buy for someone on a budget? I would say yes. It's very comfortable to use, that's another thing. Very ergonomic, a nice rubber grip. I sanded this entire thing from top to bottom, as you can see. No issues at all. Kept working, trucking on. I didn't get any kind of hand fatigue. The vibration wasn't so bad that it was causing any discomfort. Everything worked very well for this application, as it would for others. So now that we know a little more about Bauer's 6-speed 2.8 amp orbital sander, why don't we see how she does on this particular piece of furniture. Okay, so what we're going to do now is take a closer look at our Bauer 6B 2.8 amp orbital sander. As you can see, I have my piece of furniture here. It's basically finished already, but for you guys, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how this particular sander performs. Now, as always, when you're working with a sander or really any kind of power tools, what you want to do is protect yourself. So you're always going to want to have a set of safety glasses, and you also want to really consider wearing some ear protection, especially if you're going to be working with equipment such as this. Can get a little loud, and if you're doing it for long extended periods of time, you want to go ahead and protect yourself. So let's get ready. Now again, this piece of furniture, I pretty much finished it out. It's very nice, very smooth. There might be a few little edges I can feel here that might need just a little bit more. I'm going to be using a 200 grit type of sandpaper. As you can see here, when you do put on your hook and loop sanding pads, you do want to make sure you line it up with the holes. That way it can do its proper job in collecting the dust in the back here. Okay. Now the on and off switch is right here up in the front. Very nice, easy to access. As a matter of fact, most of the sanders you see nowadays is going to have a very similar design. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn this one on. Let me check my speed right now. I was at a higher speed because, as you can see, I was taking this down to the raw wood. Since right now I'm just going to kind of sand it out, I want a smoother finish. I'm probably going to go ahead and lower this down a little bit. Probably 4, maybe 3, 4.5. And let's give it a go. Ratchet up just a little bit for you. As you can see how it was randomly turning and orbiting. That's what gives you that nice smooth finish and helps you do a better and finer job without leaving any kind of swirl marks or nicks or scratches. You really get a nice end product. Nice and smooth. I'll show you some pictures probably towards the end of this video what this used to look like. There's a lot of imperfections, a lot of gouges, cuts going down everywhere. Now everything is nice and smooth off and ready for its new life. So let's do a real quick rundown. This is the Bauer 6B 2.8 amp 5-inch random orbital sander. It has the hook and loop pad system, very much like Velcro. It is a random orbiter, so it gives you a nice smooth finish with greatly minimizing any chance of squirrel marks or nicks or gouges, things like that. It's fan cooled, okay, has a fan cooled motor, sealed bearings. So the way this thing is built should last you quite a long time. So if this video helped you at all in making any kind of informed decision, please consider liking and subscribing. As always, thank you, and see you in the next video.